nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And welcome in. It is Purple Access, part of the Purple Daily brand, sponsored by our friends at Surly Brewing and, of course, TCL TVs. If you're not watching sports on TCL TV, you're doing it wrong. It is Zulgad. It is Declan Goff, executive producing, as always, and Chip Scoggins, hard at work as well, Star Tribune sports columnist. And the reason why Chip is hard at work is because I have asked Chip to compile in this rare dead period for football where there's no training camp, there's no off-season camps, there's absolutely nothing. I have asked Chip to compile his top 5, and we'll go from 5 to 1, regular season Vikings games that he has covered. The 5 most memorable. I'm leaving out playoffs because then it's just going to skew it, and I think the playoff games, Chip, are obvious. But what's not is the regular season. So you were on Go Football Beat until you joined me in 2008. Is that right?
2008.
Okay.
So I've covered the Vikings since 2008, and obviously haven't been to every regular season game because Suhan and I set them up. And when you gave me this homework assignment last night,
that's a tough homework assignment. Too. I hope you enjoyed it, Surly.
I did have a Surly while I was having it. I would have a Surly. That was part of the homework. Have a Surly.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing is, like, when you do this for so long, the games kind of run together. The blur. I mean, let's be honest. We cover some duds. Like that, the moment you walk out of the stadium, you forget them. So my list, though, I'm gonna give you 6. Is that all right? Am I breaking the rules?
I told you, nope. 6 is absolutely fine.
And these are not necessarily the best games. A few of them are the best games.
Doesn't matter.
Some of them are the ones that just stick with me, like weird, goofy, drama, entertaining,
that's what I
terrible.
Love it.
So without further ado, number 6, I'm going to say Saints game 2008, down there, horribly played game, horrible, mistakes everywhere. Special teams were a disaster. If you remember Antoine Winfield, this is the one that really sticks in my mind. Antoine Winfield, I don't think he blocked it, but he picked up a blocked field goal, scored, and then slid down the goalpost.
Yes.
I remember him. It was a Monday night, either Thursday night or
it was a Monday. It was a Monday night game.
It was a Monday night game.
Was that McKinney's first game back from suspension?
Yes. And who would have been the quarterback?
Was it T-Jack?
I think
Gus?
it's either.
No, it was probably Gus. Because
I think it was Gus. But I do remember, like, Winfield tell me a couple days later that his boy, which Andrew Jr., would have been a young kid back then. They stayed up late at night to welcome him back from the team plane. They were up at like 2 a.m. because they were so excited as Dad slid down the goalpost, and they watched this celebration.
I forgot about that. That's right.
But remember, Judd, that was the Chris Cooley game where I'll find someone that doesn't kick it to Reggie Bush, because I think Reggie Bush returned 2 punts for touchdowns or had 2.
Yes.
At least one, and had a bunch of return yards. Might have set an NFL record. And that's, Brad was steaming afterwards because he was supposed to angle it or kick it out of bounds, and he just kept kicking it to Reggie. And that's the I think you might ask Brad. He said, well, what if he can't? And Brad said, well, I'll find somebody that can. And then we had the audition the next week, right?
Yes. That was the question. Because Brad, and Cluey explained, to his credit, he had explained previously in chapter and verse that directional punting ain't something that's just simple. Because you're sacrificing yards, and Chris had a big leg, right? And he had the same problem against the Bears, and of course his arch nemesis Devin Hester. And so Cluey's whole point was they want me to directionally punt, but it's not, it's simple to say, just take it and make sure it goes out. And so, so Brad's like, we can't have that. And I said, Brad, what if he can't do it? That's when he said, I'll find someone who can.
Yeah. I'm looking it up here. That was they won the game 30-27.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look up my box score and see who was the quarterback then. It was,
it had to be Gus that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because
it was Gus
got
threw
hurt.
19-26 for 222 yards. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Didn't also Bernard Berry return a punt for a touchdown or something?
And he had a big game
big game.
Big game. Let's
I remember
see.
this game.
Punt return. Yeah, there was a lot of return yards.
A lot of return yards, both sides.
It was a really sloppy game.
Poorly played, just mistakes everywhere. But that one,
Yeah.
probably because of the Winfield celebration and the Cluey kicking. I mean, but it was. I remember it was back and forth, and those are the kind of games that stick with you. So that one gets on the list.
So 2 games into 2008, T-Jack actually got benched because they lost that game to the Colts. They were like up 18-3 or something.
Yep.
And they lost, and then that's the one time that I think that Brad was told by the Wilfs, you're benching him, because he immediately came out that Monday and he's like, Gus Frerotte will start. There were no games, and then T-Jack came back when Gus got hurt. But yeah, that's a great one, and I completely forgot about the quote about Antoine talking about his son being so excited about sliding down the goalpost.
Well,
that's great.
Now you think about Junior. All right, number 5. I love this game. I had so much fun at this game. At Baltimore, 2013, the snow globe game.
Snow game.
So, kind of is a weird game because it was snowing, until all hell breaks loose. 5 touchdowns in the last 125 seconds. So, the Ravens and Vikings combined for 5 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes, 5 seconds. If you remember, that was the game Peterson got hurt in the first quarter. And I think he texted some.
I know where you're going.
I think he texted
from the locker room.
And Toby Gerhart took over. But I went back and looked at my game story because that's the year I had to go back on. 2013 was a sneaky good year in terms of memorable games. But I'd gone back on the beat that year because Dan Weeder left to Chicago, so I had to go back on the beat, become a beat writer. But so I was looking at my game story today. First game in NFL history with 6 lead changes in the fourth quarter. And remember, it was so the Ravens had a touchdown pass, a short one there, to go up 15-12 with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left. Next series, Toby Gerhart takes one almost untouched right up the middle, 41 yards. Bam, quick score. So Vikings lead 19-15. Next kickoff, Ravens take it back all the way for a touchdown. It was like an 80-yard touchdown. So they're up 23-19 with 1:15 left. Vikings get the ball, throw a screen pass to Cordell Patterson. He goes 79 yards for a touchdown. So they're up 26-22 with 45 seconds left. Kick it off. Ravens have the ball at their 20. They go 80 yards and score. They had a pass interference penalty in there, a bogus one in there that they were Chad Green was mad about. But they score with a few seconds. They had like 4 seconds left to live to win 29-26. But it was like you felt like they won and lost like 5 different times in those final 2 minutes. Think about that. 5 touchdowns in 2 minutes at the end of a game.
I remember watching that game, and here was my thought. On a snowy day in which for basically 3+ quarters, it felt like in watching it on TV, no one could get their footing.
Yeah, well,
how did we explode for that many touchdowns?
Well, if you remember, after Peterson got hurt early in the game, Gerhart had because I think we did a pool report with the officiating because they ruled Gerhart was clearly down. He fumbled, and they ruled it a fumble, and they lost it. And I know Frazier and them were just livid after the game because he was clearly down. Replay showed it. But they lost that fumble. That was in the first or second quarter. But yeah, it was crazy. Like everybody was walking on like their tippy toes on eggshells until the last 2 minutes, and it was a track meet. I mean, they were just it was like you had a 41-yarder, I think it was an 80-yard kick return and a 79-yard, just like one right after another. So it was crazy. And that officially knocked them out of playoff. I mean, they're like 3-9 at that point, or 1. They had a tie in there too, but that completely. I mean, I had never seen anything like it, and well, we hadn't. First time in NFL history, 6 lead changes in the fourth quarter. So I don't know if it was well played, but it was a memorable game that stuck.
That's nuts. Yes, that's a great one.
Number 4, the Josh Freeman game.
Yep.
Josh Freeman signs. This was 2013.
Yep.
the quarterback situation was an absolute debacle, just a disaster, right? We have Ponder. Who else? Was it Castle? Who was the three-man rotation that year in 13?
It might have been Castle by then, right, Dex?
Castle.
Yeah, I think it was Castle, Ponder. They drafted Teddy in 2014, so it
Yeah.
was those two, I think.
So they bring Josh Freeman in mid-season 2013. 2 weeks or 10 days, however long later. They start him Monday night at the Giants. And remember, both teams were terrible at that point. I looked this up. It was in my gamer. The combined winning percentage, I think the Giants were winless and the Vikings like 1-5, but their combined winning percentage, .091, made it the worst matchup. And this was late October. Made it the worst matchup that late in the season in the history of Monday Night Football. So we had that going for us. So we had just
another great Monday night game in the 2015s or.
And then we had, I believe, the Favre was the lightning storm, so that one was the one that was delayed. But
yep, that was a Jets game.
So Freeman, for some unknown reason, they asked him to throw 53 passes.
Yes, that's the question. So
he was 20 of 53 for 190 yards, 1 interception, and a 40.6 passer rating, and a 23-7 loss to the worst team, to a winless team. Adrian Peterson had 13 carries coming off an MVP season.
Yep.
Josh Freeman threw 53 passes.
Yep.
15 of his 33 incompletions were overthrows.
Oh God.
So he became the second NFL quarterback since 1960 to attempt 50 passes while finishing without a touchdown pass and fewer than 200 yards passing.
God.
It was an unbelievable.
What was the explanation for the amount of pass attempts, Chip?
I remember we came back and the next day and talking to Leslie, we were like, Leslie, what the hell was that? What just happened? You had a guy who didn't even know the playbook throw 53 passes. And he defended Leslie. I think he took shrapnel for the front office because they wanted Freeman to play.
Yep.
They probably didn't want him to throw 50 passes, but there was no rationale that would have made sense for a guy who was not very good, who didn't know the playbook that well. He couldn't have. He'd only been there 2 weeks. Attempt 53 passes on a primetime game.
And I didn't mind starting him. That didn't offend me as much, but 53 passes is just utterly ridiculous and stupid.
And remember, he was throwing them all over the stadium. I mean, they were over guys' heads.
It was flying. The ball was the ball at times looked like a punter kick.
Yeah, it was
so out of control.
It was so absurd. And you kept watching. It's why are they doing this? We were just sitting up in the press box, what are we watching here? 2013 was a weird season. We always talk about 2010. 2013 is definitely below it, but it deserves its own special trophy for being just completely absurd with all the stuff that went on that year.
And I think 13 was the year that it really blew up with Rick and Les. They didn't necessarily see eye to eye before that, but I think it went haywire in 13. My two personal weirdest years are 2010 and 16. Yeah, because so much went wrong there. But 13 was, I would say it's
sneaky weird. Sneaky weird. Yeah,
disintegration.
So that was 4.
All right.
Number 3.
All right.
The Greg Lewis game.
Oh, yeah.
Week 3, 2009. Remember, this was Favre's first year. Mm-hmm. And the first 2 weeks, what were we writing? He's a game manager. That opener was a pretty darn good game at Cleveland, but that was more about Adrian Peterson. Remember, he had to run down the sideline. He slams on the brakes and he shoves the guy out of bounds. And Percy was really good that game. Remember, Favre goes down there and tackles him in the end zone, and Percy can't breathe, and Favre's laughing and hitting him in the head. But he really, he was coming off the bicep injury from the Jets, and so he wasn't really cutting it loose those first 2 games. They kind of played it safe and eased into it. But all that changed, week 3, San Francisco at home. Judd, was that the home opener? They started at Cleveland.
Yes, Detroit.
The next week was the Detroit. Yeah. So this was Favre's first game at the Metrodome. And 2 seconds left, throws one of the best passes I think I've ever seen with one of the best catches I've ever seen, considering the circumstance.
Ridiculous.
I don't know which was better, the pass or the catch, but on the run, was it like a 35-yard pass off one leg?
He raked the ball. He like got the ball around.
He like windmilled it.
The linebacker. And it's incredible because his hand was so big.
And then, along the back end zone, you find Greg Lewis, of all people, who, is just kind of a roll guy.
Had Percy come out, or was he just not running on that play? Because the previous play, I think he had run a route, and he was totally gassed.
Yeah, I think he would run all the way down the field and had a need a blow. So, I mean, this was with 2 seconds left. This was a walk-off, basically.
Correct.
And, I don't know about you, Judd, but that was the moment where I felt like, okay, this is special. Yep. This has a chance to be really a magical season and you saw that Favre still had it. Like we up until that point, the first 2 weeks was he's a game manager and they'll ride Peterson and these guys, and he'll just kind of think, and then it's like, heck no, the gunslinger's back, and that's when you knew that season was going to be pretty special.
I remember after the Detroit game, and I want to say it might have been the week after when Brett did his availability on Wednesday. We basically asked him about that. Like, hey, you're doing a great job, because he was doing a really good job of, to your point, managing the game. And I've always been convinced that Brett read that and he thought, manage the game my ass, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And after that, it totally clicked. But I mean, I think we thought at the time for the Cleveland and the Detroit game that it was going to be Brett understanding that Peterson was the guy. And I mean, back then, Peterson, phenomenal talent.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think Brett loved that because it definitely created play action opportunities, which Brett was great at. But yeah, that game was a seismic swing in the shift of, this ain't one guy's team, gentlemen. I'll show you on Brett Favre.
And you could just see, like, that's when that became his team, right?
Yes.
Because they had not had that, Judd.
Hell no.
Think about the quarterback play, and then you did that play win an ESPY, or was it not? Or am I thinking
probably
about
did?
That?
No, I think it won one. I think Lewis might have accepted it, right?
Yeah.
I think he went out to wherever the ESPYs were held that year and accepted the award.
Yeah, and so, but I think that's where guys really realized, oh my God, they got a quarterback now that's they could, a good quarterback, not just
that was the start to me of the official revenge tour.
Yes,
like I am going to shove it up the Packers, and I'm going to start now.
Yeah.
And Chip, to go back to that whole thing too. It was interesting because you could see the awe when Brett walked in. Like when Brett, like the day he arrived in Eden Prairie and came out onto that practice field is one day where I felt like the players were like fans. Like they're like, oh my God, it's Brett Favre. But to your point, that game is when I think as a player in games, that shift took place, and it went from Brett Favre is here to help to, oh no, hold on a second here. Brett Favre is here to officially save the day.
Yeah, he's the missing piece. That's where it felt like he became the missing piece.
Absolutely.
So that was number 3. Number 2, 2012 season finale, win over the Packers at home.
Wow. Okay. Gets
them in the playoffs. Lot going on there. But that was the Adrian Peterson game, right? The culmination of his MVP year. He goes into the game needing 200. He finished with 199. He needed 204, 7 to get Eric Dickerson. He finished with 297. He finished 8 yards shy of Eric Dickerson. But that was the game that, the whole season won an MVP. But that was when you say his MVP season, 199 yards, 34 carries. If you remember, Judd, his last carry. That last drive, he needed 30-something yards. His last carry, he breaks one off 26, goes around the edge. He goes 26 yards. He gets tackled. You're thinking, oh, my God, he's going to have a walk-off touchdown here and break. But he gets tackled, and that set up Blair Walsh. He made the winning he made the winning kick with no time. It was like a 30-something yarder. But that sent him into the playoffs, and then they go the next. Remember, Ponder got hurt. Was he winding up to throw a pass at the end of the first half and take that big shot? And that's where he got hurt, and remember, Leslie all week downplayed it going into the playoff game at Lambeau next week. Oh, no, he's good. And then you get to the game and he's throwing pop-ups and it's the Joe Webb playoff game. But
poor Joe Webb.
Yeah, but that one, I didn't get to cover the Peterson's, record-setting game. I went on the beat there against San Diego, but to me that was, he won the MVP and he carried it. I mean, he carried a team with Christian Ponder at quarterback into the playoffs. I think they won 10 games that year.
Yep.
That's all you need to know.
and if you recall too, so that I want to say the Vikings weren't in great shape going into December of 2012, and Ponder got sort of hot. Like he started to play better, and that was the great tease going into 13, which is, has Christian Ponder figured it out? Can Christian Ponder do it? Because there was a 4-game span. I want to say it involved the Rams in St. Louis, the Texans, and it ended with the Packers, and it might have been the Bears. And Ponder statistically played pretty well, and so the tease was, oh my God, Ponder's hurt, but has he found something that can then go into 2013? And of course, the answer was unequivocally no.
Yeah, Judd, they won their last 4 games, so they beat the Bears at home, won at St. Louis, won at Houston, and then won the Packers. They won 4 in a row to get to 10 wins and get in and play the Packers where they, Ponder didn't play and they had Joe Webb and had no chance. But, 2,097 yards for Peterson that year.
Off an ACL, Chip.
Yeah, off the ACL. Yeah,
it was remarkable.
Yeah.
How did he come back and do that?
My famous line of that Ponder run in the last 4 games where he was just absolutely dynamite was that he played so well his arm just broke. Like, he played so well going to the Packers game. His arm was like, I can't do anymore. That was the most you've ever used me. I can't even work anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, and I remember the hit is around midfield, and you're thinking, it didn't. You weren't sure he was hurt to the extent he was, but then we saw him in the locker room after the game that next week. It's like, oh my God, he's hurt. It was like he couldn't throw the ball. Mm-hmm. But that game was nuts. It was loud. It was crazy, and Peterson was, spectacular. So that's number 2 on the list. Number 1, it's easy. I mean, there's no doubt about this one to me. Brett Favre back at Green Bay, first time.
Oh yeah,
2009.
Yeah.
Judd, we chronicle it together, and that I can't remember as much anticipation for a regular season game as that one was. Like, what's the reception like? Is he gonna get booed? Is like, and I remember, so he came out for early warm-ups and got booed there, and then for the full team runs on right before the game, and the Vikings run out of that tunnel there. And it was loud boos, but I was sitting there thinking, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Favre was at the end of that, and then he comes out, and honest to God, it was like you were standing on the runway with a 747 taking off.
Yes.
I'd never heard a human being get booed like that. It was and I think that it didn't rattle him because, hell, he played, spectacular, but I think it wounded him a little bit. I think he thought he might get more cheers than that, but it was, the boos were thunderous.
Oh God, yeah. It was. I don't know that I've ever felt a stadium as solid as that one shake like it shook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that place is brick. That place is Lambeau Field. It felt like it was moving.
But Judd,
you're right.
And then look how he played.
Oh God.
4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, 250 yards. It was the largest crowd in regular season history at Lambeau. And he just came in and put a dagger in him. It was unbelievable. But just that whole atmosphere and that vibe that week leading up to it and
nuts.
It was that season was my favorite season of any. That and 2003 Wild were my favorite sports seasons to cover as a writer. But that game to me I still think about the lead up to it. Favre running on the field, and then the reaction afterwards. Him trying to he tried to downplay it as much as he possibly could, but I think he was a little stung by the reception he got.
2009 also, Chip, as far as the Vikings go, was fun to cover and interesting as well, because we will never cover that much star power again.
No, it was
a national team.
Yes, think about it. Favre, Peterson, Hutch, Jared Allen, the Williams Wall, Winfield, they just had Percy.
Yeah.
Think about how many great players were on that team.
Yes. Yeah, and Brett was the final piece, but I mean that was a team where we will, I don't think, ever again see that much national media descending on a team in this town because it's so attractive, and that's what made that fun. And I will, to their credit, for the most part, of course, until the Saints game, you know what? For the most part, they lived up to it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't flame out quickly. They didn't. I mean, what they started before Dallas and Pittsburgh 5-0, or no? Yeah, 9. Yeah. So they started off hot. They played well. Favre got really hot and played great. I mean, he beat the Packers twice.
Yeah. They started 9-1, or hell, they were 10-1.
Yeah.
And then
the Pittsburgh loss was a tough loss, as I recall, in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean it's 27-17, but that. I mean, the one kind of clunker I remember was the Panthers game.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's a whole nother one. I thought that might make your list.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's hell. You can put a lot of them.
He was going to lift me. Was Brad going to take you out? He was going to pull me.
He was talking. What was he?
Tom Powers goes back in and finds chili in a towel. That son of a. They had to calm them both down.
Powers goes in the shower to find children.
Good for Powers. Good for Tom.
Remember that game was just a disaster, and McKinney couldn't block Peppers. And
Brad was going to lift Brett for his own good, but Brett went nuts.
And Brett, you're not lifting Brett Favre from that game, and because didn't TV cameras catch them on the sideline having I don't know if it's a heated discussion or something, and that's how it came in. Like, what was Brad telling you?
I got a call from the office that they had shown Brett pulling away from Brad. And we didn't know why, but Brad put his hand on Brett's shoulder, and Brett just dismissed it and walked away. Yeah. And so I think in Brett's post game press conference, I said, "What was that all about?" And he's like, "He was going to lift me." And
Childress had already talked.
Yeah, and Childress had talked, and it's the only time I think in my time covering Brett that I cut him off because it's on deadline, it's at night, and he was going to ramble on for half an hour. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, whoa. I said, Brett, he was going to lift you?" He says, "Yeah, he was going to pull me out of that game." And that's when Powers, who I think had filed his column for his Metro edition at the time, was like, "Screw it, I'm going to go find out." And Childress lost it.
Yeah, he went nuts. Yeah. And I remember when Hagan tried to pull him out.
Yeah, he tried to pull Powers out of the shower area where Childress is in a robe, basically going crazy.
I could have put that one on there. Yeah. So, but yeah, anytime Favre played Green Bay, that was a big deal. But the first one was at the Metrodome, right? That year.
Yes. It was the night before. It was a Sunday. Was it a Sunday night game or a Monday night game? And then I want to say,
I'm sure.
I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, there was the Twins played the next day, like a game 163.
Oh.
Like the Metrodome. The Metrodome is such a weird place because I mean, I will always say it was built on the cheap and it was really crappy. Yeah. It had more great events though.
Heck yeah! I mean,
it's just incredible when you go through the monumental events.
And I mean, U.S. Bank Stadium's loud and it's home field advantage too. But I still remembered that Cowboys playoff game there, where it was as loud as wasn't as loud as the Superdome, for the NFC Championship game, but it was loud and Cowboys had no chance that day.
Yeah,
I mean, they just ran them out. So there's my 6. Some
that's fantastic.
goofy ones, some obviously great games, but those are ones that definitely, after 20-something years here. Well, I mean, since 2008 covering them, 14 years. Those are ones that still stick with me.
Dex, your thoughts on those?
I like
6?
it. Yeah, I know those are all very memorable games. I remember watching, for whatever reason, your first one you started with that Saints game. We rolled out the TV, and this was only 2008, but at the same time, technology's still come such a long way. One of those 12-inch Magnavoxes, with the screen that's 12 inches, but a big butt on the back end of the TV that this 12-inch TV weighed 55 pounds. It was incredible with a long extension cord. I remember watching that. Like you said, it was a special teams affair. Reggie Bush was running all over the place. Barry and had a I think punt return touchdown that sealed the win. All those were great. I think all those ones definitely stand out.
Did I miss any, Judd?
Oh boy, I don't think so. I mean, there's just so I like the fact that you took this as your games, because that's the thing that stands out to me is all these games can be different. No, I like it. And that game that Dex is talking about in 2008 at the Superdome, it's an interesting one because I believe, Chipper, that was the first time I had covered a game there. And you realized the noise, because to call a spade, the noise in the Metrodome wasn't necessarily all organic. Sure. There was a lot of piped in crap there. I remember in New Orleans at the Superdome, and the press box at that time was low, but it was huge, and it was like legitimate people noise and like instruments and drums and stuff. But my God, was that a fun place to watch a game. A unique atmosphere.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some from the Zimmer era. I mean, the one that really I still think about is the Rams game where Cousins and Goff were going back and forth. I didn't cover that game live. I watched it on TV, so I didn't include that one. That was one that I think they both throw for 5 touchdowns, but it was just back and
crazy.
Forth. Yeah, that was great. One and then Cousins and Rodgers have had a couple of I don't know if shootout's the right word, but they both put up big numbers. It was 2020 here. I think they both threw for a lot, but I'm trying to think during the Zimmer era, is it
17? Some case games?
Yeah, well, I looked at that. I mean, obviously, the playoff games.
Right. But, I mean, Case turned a corner there, too, because I think Case's first start was like week two against Pittsburgh.
Early.
And Bradford had started against the Saints here and won, and then Case started a game at Pittsburgh, and they lost, and you're like, they are in trouble.
Yeah.
And then Case turned that corner and started to have, one of the weirdest magical seasons, I think, in this team's history as far as just a pop-up.
Yeah, what was the horseshoe game? I feel like that was a great game where he played well. And
that was here.
Zimmer, it was definitely here, and I was there. I can't remember. Like I said, they all run together, but remember he played well, and he threw a couple just darts, and Zimmer said, "Yeah, he had a horseshoe."
Oh, I remember that well.
We're saying he had a horseshoe, saying, he got lucky. Don't do that again.
Yeah, I remember thinking they're not on the same page.
Yeah, I can't remember the game exactly, but yeah, there were probably. There's clearly some that I'm just forgetting about. But,
that's a good it's a great list.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic list. I was just going back quickly through the 2017 regular season to see if there's ones that stand out. Yeah, so in week 2 they lose 26-9 at Pittsburgh after they beat the Saints. So at that point you say they're in trouble. But then October 15th they beat the Packers 23-10. They actually beat the Packers on December 23rd 16-0. So, they did have some games there. But, yeah, it's my thing is this. 2009 and 10, in their own way, were so weird and different. It's hard to, disassociate those years because those years just have this plethora of, did that really happen game? Both good and bad. So, outstanding job, Chip Scoggins. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we also have the home game in Detroit. It wasn't a great game, but the dome collapses and we cover a home game in Detroit. That's
I still remember my words to you as we were in the airport after they were supposed to play, the Giants at the Metrodome, and I said it's too much now. This is jump the shark. This is no longer funny. This is no longer funny. We are going to and keep in mind within a month we made 2 trips to Detroit.
I know.
And I'm like, who has to go to Detroit twice?
When you cover a home game in Detroit, the wheels have fallen off.
No offense, but you've hit rock bottom. Rock bottom.
I know.
All right, before you go, tell me this. 4th of July coming up. A lot of festivities, a lot of fun. What beer will you be drinking, Chip Scoggins, as you celebrate our country?
I will be toasting the country with Surly Furious. Tall boys, get the 4-pack.
You're so right about that. Get the tall boys. Enjoy them. Of course, the Supremes are outstanding for this time of year as well. Logic Bombs. It's the summer of Surly. Listen to Chip Scoggins. You can't go wrong. We will talk to you later.
All right, brother.